Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
What's up, everyone? We're here for another review on First Cut. This time, myself and Sabrina are going to be reviewing the new Angel Manuel Soto movie, Blue Beetle. Our main star, Blue Beetle, is the first Latino superhero film that we're seeing in the Marvel Cinematic, or not Marvel, DC universe. So yeah, Sabrina, you got to check it out early and go to the premiere and all that. What did you think of Blue Beetle?
Yeah, so I know we brought this up in conversation a little bit, when we were kind of like looking down the pipeline of what we had coming for the rest of summer, rest of 2023. And this one was always one that really intrigued me just because I feel like it didn't really get a lot of love in terms of marketing or even just in the conversation of films in general. This one was definitely flying under the radar. And I haven't checked out a single comic book movie this entire year. Not The Flash, not Ant-Man, Shazam. I haven't seen a single one so far, but this was one I definitely wanted to check out because we have some fresh faces, some fresh voices with the filmmakers and people like that. And I really enjoyed this one. I will say, it is not super, it doesn't go above and beyond to go against the grain of what we expect with a normal origin story. But as far as the origin stories go for superheroes, I think this is a really great one that dives into some really relatable themes. I think seeing our first Latin superhero character on screen in live action, especially someone who's 100% Mexican, I think is really special, really important, a huge moment that I wish was getting a lot more flowers than it is, but hopefully it'll have some legs, maybe at the theaters, post cinema day and things like that. But I really, really enjoyed this one. What'd you think?
No, I really enjoyed it as well. There's been, for me, I enjoyed a lot of comic book movies so far this year. Some of them, like I enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 a lot, and obviously loved Across the Spider-Verse, which was amazing.
Oh, yes. That's the one I saw.
Oh yeah, so yeah, that one, of course. But then but yeah, the other ones, yeah, like you mentioned, The Flash, mad underwhelming. I didn't even see Shazam, and Ant-Man was terrible. But now I'm glad that this movie, like you said, it doesn't break the grain per se. We've seen a lot of these films before. I feel like, especially if you came up in like this early 2000s, like I feel like there's so many like early, Sam Raimi Spider-Man things in there. There's so many just the comic book movies of that time period. Just it feels very specific to that, but in a loving and an endearing way. I think that's the refreshing part of it to me, is like how much of a throwback, unabashed comic book film it does feel like. Xolo did an amazing job in this starring role. I've never watched Cobra Kai. A lot of people say that's a fantastic show on Netflix. But seeing him in this part, he's just so infectious with like the energy and just capturing that young, optimistic superhero spirit in a very unique way. And I think that that's also the biggest part of the appeal too, is just him and the rest of the cast. Like, I think, to me, George Lopez, like, we haven't seen George Lopez in a good minute, but he was probably one of the funniest supporting characters I've seen in a movie so far this year. So that, I mean, to me, the cast is really what made it work.
100% agree. I mean, I love seeing George Lopez. I love the La Chona needle drops. For anyone who grew up in like a Mexican household or with the culture, this is just like exuding it 24/7 in the most like celebratory and loving way, really hitting home all of that nostalgia. And I think it's really cool that this film kind of opens up that Mexican culture to some other people who haven't experienced it themselves or are just not too familiar with all of that. I think even just the themes of family and the family dynamics we have, I mean, with like Nana and his parents, his sister, his crazy uncle, played by George Lopez. It's very, very charming. It's very sweet. And I love how you talked about Xolo's performance in this film, because he does elevate this role so much. I think like in the hands of another actor, some of those like tired tropes that, of course, like I'm not knocking this film for including those. I feel like we see them in all origin stories. There's just no way to escape it. But he really breathes like new life into it. I think something that was really cool that Soto did with this film as well is like the body horror aspect, which I feel like we don't see enough in superhero films. It's like, especially in this situation, when your entire body is completely being changed, you have the scarab that is now connected to like your central nervous system. That is going to be a terrifying experience. And I love how ridiculously hilarious the family was acting when the scarab initially started to take control of him. Xolo's performance in that moment, I just think it's so authentic. You really feel the family dynamic shine through, because I know if something like this happened to a family member of mine, like all of us would be running around screaming, going crazy. And even just the idea of gentrification in this film, you know, we have Susan Sarandon, who was kind of like phoning it in, but like whatever. That's not who I'm paying attention to in this film at all. We have like Palmyra City and the gentrification that is happening with his family. And I think that idea of, you know, I know you probably feel it in LA and I felt it with my family in Chicago. It's like there are people taking over businesses, small businesses. You know, they talk about, I think it was like the auto shop had to close down, different things like that, because the community is changing and the community is shifting. So you might not go to that same bodega or that corner store you used to always frequent or whatever. Like they're just not getting as much foot traction. So I think highlighting it in this way, making it palatable for audiences to understand is really important, because all these heavier themes in this film are just elevated by the jokes. And I think the jokes in this ground it, make it feel authentic, but it doesn't take away from the weight. You know, I feel like there's so many moments in this film where, you know, there are heavier things being discussed, or we're seeing something that we don't necessarily want our favorite character to go through or whatever. And the jokes don't take away from that. I feel like the MCU has kind of been in this phase of like a 1-2 punch where it's like something will happen, you'll start to feel the weight of it, and before it can really sink in, they immediately have some like cheesy little one-liner. In this, I feel like the humor was definitely earned, and I think it was placed very meticulously within the film to keep it going and not take away from what we're seeing on screen.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you. I definitely feel you with the emotional aspects of it. Just going back to the gentrification point, you know, that was one of the many heavier themes that they definitely encroach upon throughout this film. And I think it was a really brilliant representation of how the gentrification process happens. Not, you know, just like you said, of the community changing, but the reasons why the community changing is because of a big mega corporation coming in and swooping up houses and jacking up prices and things of that nature. Like really, you know, gentrification is like the idea of like raising prices. So it's like the fact, and a lot of modern real estate, especially here in LA, a lot of the real estate that is being brought and eventually pricing out people of color is the stuff that is being brought by like Blackstone or like some random like bot controlled corporation that has no relation. Like a lot of people are, there's mass stories of people talking about, yeah, I have a landlord who I've never get in contact with. Like there's no personal call or anything because it's just owned by a corporation. So that's like, I feel like they touch on that so well, to the fact of like the community, you still see like the very dividing lines between Palmyra City and where the family's living at, how there's like super wealth, super technology, like all over the city aspects of it. But then when you go down into the community, is very like, you know, very run down, very like, you know, not been very overlooked, until, you know, there is a Cord Corporation building that they need to put right across the street. So it's just like they make it so real and so detailed. I know they filmed a lot of this in Miami, which is the perfect analogy for what this kind of situation is happening right now, especially if you look at like Ron DeSantis and like the Miami mayor. It just touches on like all of these things so brilliantly. Also the idea of like ICE, right? Like I feel like all the scenes where the Cord Corporation were like raiding the house, especially in the middle. We could get into, you know, this is a spoiler review, so like let's really get into the spoilers. When they're raiding the house and, you know, eventually end up burning it down, that felt very shockingly similar to like a lot of footage we see of like ICE raids from people being like detained unjustly by these officers. So I think that's the beauty of having a director like Angel Soto behind this film, because it has a deeper meaning, a deeper cultural significance, in the same way that Black Panther was speaking to Black audiences in ways that, you know, were very specific and unique. This film does the same for Mexican audiences as well. So I really appreciated that. And I appreciate the style of it too. Like, I appreciate the fact that it was unabashed in how like over the top it was, how goofy some of the scenes were looking. Like you said, Susan Sarandon, that's the one part of it, you know, like you mentioned, Susan Sarandon was phoning it in. If she had just gone off the cuff and just went super ham and crazy and fun with it, like the rest of the movie was, like the rest of the cast was, then that would have been, I felt like, just so much more satisfying. But yeah, you know, playing a more straightforward bad guy. I actually like Susan Sarandon a lot as a person, but yeah, I do wish she would have did this a lot better. But yeah, it was great seeing the very tonic, and speaking of tone and the tone and the themes too, the main henchman who was working for Susan Sarandon's character, I forgot his character's name, but how his background story was rooted in warfare, child warfare in Latin America. Or tying in real world events to this fictional comic book mythology gives it an extra layer of authenticity and an extra layer of relatable storytelling. So I really appreciated what they did on that front, connecting all those themes.
Absolutely. I mean, like in other countries, obviously this is present, and also in our own. So it kind of, and I think some people don't really realize that when we talk about our own military, and how they can prey on lower income people of color with promises, of course, of like, oh, you get your degree, you'll get paid for this. And so you see this character that's like, of course, the antagonist with Susan Sarandon, but there is so much humanity because he was so taken advantage of. He was beaten down until he had nothing left. And then he is conditioned to believe this one thing. And I think that seeing that on screen is really important, really impactful, and it brings up these conversations.
The villain is you relate to him so much more because you understand that his struggle is rooted in the same struggle that Jaime and his family are going through. And that's why it just makes it so relatable. And that's why Jaime's family, like, you know, even though they're struggling, it's like, man, you hate to see them struggling because they're all super, super smart. Like the way George Lopez is like inventing things like you had never seen before, new technologies or something. Like, it's just, they go all in on how smart this family is, but unfortunately not able to get those same opportunities as maybe like a Jessica Cord, who was like the daughter. Is that her name, Jessica or Jennifer?
Oh, Jenny.
Jenny. Just like Jenny's character, you know? Yeah.
Well, definitely. And that's like I mean, you know, we talk about it all the time when you talk about like Mexican culture or other people of color. It's like you find savvy ways to go around things, like George Lopez's character, who I believe his name is like Uncle Rudy. He just is using the resources that he has to create what he does. And it's like, could you imagine if he had the resources that some people that are much less equipped than he is, he had the opportunity to dive into that. And I think that also shines through with the community. You know, obviously Jaime's father in the film passes away, and the way the community comes together to celebrate his life, to celebrate their community just overall, and the impact he had on it, the impact every single one of them does, is just really beautiful. I feel like that idea of community in this film really grounds everything, whether it's just his small intimate family or the family around him, which are his neighbors who are also going through the same things as them. And to me, it's just crazy. Like, I have chills talking about it right now. You know, like I went home for the first time, like in Chicago, and I went to go show Brandon, my partner, all of my favorite places. They were either moved, gone completely, and I had no idea. I would pull up and then pull it up on Google Maps, and it's like permanently closed. So there's so many amazing small businesses and things like that again are taken down, or families that are kicked out by larger corporations, or just by landlords raising the rent of like a certain space or anything like that. So yeah, it's really important for communities to have those resources, first of all. And then, yeah, the parallel between what they tried to do with Jaime in this film, what Cord Industries was trying to do, which is basically like mess everything up, light their house on fire, get rid of whatever, kill whoever, target whoever, it doesn't matter. It's just beating them down until they have no humanity left, nothing to live for. And so it's just, it's really important. And I think the writers took a lot of time with this to really make this authentic for people who have lived through those experiences. But yeah, I mean, Warner Brothers, another thing I just want to say, I think they did this movie so dirty. Of course, this one was supposed to be released on Max or HBO Max at the time, along with our Batgirl. And of course, we're not getting Batgirl at all. And then this one was moved to theaters, which does make me really happy. But at the same time, I feel like it could be used as ammunition of like, look, you didn't show up and show out for your community. So like, why tell these stories on screen if nobody's going to go see them? I did see a lot of people on Twitter talking about this film where they're like, you know, Hispanic communities, Mexicans, like run out to go see it. And it's like, we are, but we also need everybody else, especially white people, to maybe experience this kind of story for the first time, or check out something that's a little bit outside of your wheelhouse. Maybe you'll learn something, understand a little bit more, have some empathy. But I think in this political climate, it's a little bit difficult to ask people of that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you know, I think the film, you know, unfortunately, yeah, I think Warner Brothers is 100% responsible for the kibotching of the release of this film. They should have put as much marketing behind this as they did The Flash, you know, or at least like half of the marketing as they did with The Flash. I feel like I saw The Flash everywhere. And with this movie, I feel like I really saw no billboards, like one trailer, two trailers, maybe. Like it was like nothing. So yeah, they definitely should have put their best foot forward with this. And because it's a winner, it actually is a legitimately good movie. And like you mentioned, the scene where Jaime's father passes away, that was such a visually good, striking moment too. Like with the fire happening in the background and the cinematography, how it goes into slow motion shots, people reacting in the ambulance was really nice. I also thought but you know, and then the whole speech that the grandma gives about, hey, yo, we gotta mourn later. Like right now, Jaime's in trouble. Like that to me, like really just felt real too. Like it just felt like motivational. Like I was ready to kick into the third act journey as well. So there's so many good elements in there that I think families would love. Like when I saw opening day, there was young children in the theater watching it too, and they were super into it. Like they were loving it. Like they were going crazy when George Lopez had found all the weapons, and all the family had picked up their own little thing. Like homegirl had the little glove joint, and then grandma had the big gat, and she kept saying like,
I love that.
yeah. I'm like, I want to see a grandma spinoff film. Like, what was she taking down like dictators and imperialists? Like, I really want to see what her backstory was, but
yeah, I mean, all of that just shows like Jaime's strength came from his support, the love from his family, all of that. Like it can be extremely isolating going through grief, even though they are all sharing this collective grief with losing, you know, Nana losing like her son, or him and his sister losing their father both together. But it can be still an isolating experience. And right away, like they're like, we will mourn when the time comes, but we're gonna make sure they don't take another thing from us. Like this is just not going to happen right now. And yeah, that really was beautiful.
Yeah, no, it was sweet, and I enjoyed everything in it. And you know, going back to more 2000s superhero things, real quick, when they pulled out the ship and it looked exactly like the owl from Watchmen, you know what I mean? Like how it looked like the ship with the giant eyes, like the owl in that movie. I thought that was really dope. And then the one moment that I just like love the movie. It's so dumb, but like when the island's like exploding or whatever, and then like the ship is like flying away, and then you just cut to like George Lopez screaming in the captain's ship, and then like it cuts to, I think it was like Nina like in the other side, like also like freaking out. It was just like such a funny, so small, but it like in the middle of a big action climactic scene, and you just find like a beautiful moment of like comedy just to like slide in there. Like you're right, like Marvel stuff, they just do the comedy just for comedy, and they don't let anything reside. Guardians, I think Guardians was the one that they actually had some good filmmaking behind, and they felt there was the one movie this year that they were like, it felt like a real movie or a real project or a real show. But with this film, it was very separate territories. Like there's times for jokes and there's times to get serious. And when it did both, it did them both well, and didn't step on each other in any kind of way. So yeah, I love this movie a lot. I think it was really fun. I do wish people would go out to see it. But I also think, DC, they're never gonna get their act together. Like, it's just
Yeah.
the most reactionary brand in the entire Hollywood. So it's like, you know, we're not gonna see. I think because this movie got good reviews, we might see Xolo, Jaime come back in like a small part in like a Superman movie or something stupid like that. But I do wish we would see like a Blue Beetle 2, or like see this franchise live on, because it was definitely worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it gains some legs and more people check it out. It's unfortunate with the lack of like marketing or like well-intentioned marketing, and then also just, yeah, the series of terrible comic book movies that have been coming out. It's like, of course, this is going to get the short end of the stick, because the last few times people went to go see a comic book movie in theaters, they came out disappointed, except for Spider-Verse, except for Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's like, it's such a gamble nowadays, and it's so expensive to see movies in theaters, especially if you want to take your whole family. I understand if somebody's like, hey, I've been burned too many times by superhero movies, like, time to take a break for a second. But for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, and if you're considering watching it, I would definitely say check it out. I think Angel Manuel Soto is a filmmaker that has a very unique voice, especially in this DC machine, where I feel like dealing with these franchises, dealing with these IPs, it can be really difficult to stand out. But his approach to this story was super refreshing. The entire cast, the ensemble was incredible. Their chemistry was just through the roof. I really hope we see all of them again. I'm like, again, hoping this has legs so that we don't see Jaime in like a little cameo in a Superman movie, like you mentioned. I do want to see the Blue Beetle too. I hope this can survive all the shifting changes with DC. I haven't even been keeping up with any of that, because I feel like I'm hearing new things every day. But I really hope to see this family come together again. And I really want to see a Blue Beetle too.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I really do wish for Angel, Manuel Soto, the director of this film. Such a cool dude, man. Like, I talked about this before, but we partied together at La Leaf, LA Film, Latino International Film Festival. And he was so awesome. He was just like, and he will tell you, like, yo, before he made his first feature, he did like 26 shorts. Like, he is a filmmaker. And I feel like there were times in this movie you could really see like there's filmmaking in this beyond just being a DC movie. So I do appreciate him for taking those choices and being able to step up to the ball play. And I hope this doesn't like derail his career, because I think he's a fantastic filmmaker and a fantastic person. But, you know, also too, I know George Lopez, I guess, is not in like the most favorable light. It is. I think he did some stuff on the podcast that kind of got him a little bit like canceled-ish. Not canceled per se, but like, he just said some offensive stuff. But I do feel like if they would have put like George Lopez in Blue Beetle, that would have probably got at least like another 10 million in the box office, because he was truly the best part, at least in my opinion. In terms of the supporting roles. But yeah, that I don't know if you have any final thoughts, Sabrina, or
yeah, honestly, see the movie. Really, really good, incredible ensemble. I really hope that this can reach the right audience that maybe hasn't given up on comic book movies fully yet. I think this makes me feel, I guess, more appreciative of the really good ones. And like, again, a filmmaker who knows how to navigate towing the line between comedy, some, again, body horror, and then also having the weight of the emotional moments really sink in. I cannot wait to see what Angel Manuel Soto does in the future. Like you said, I didn't know that story of that interaction that you two had. I didn't know about all of the shorts that he, like the work he put in there, but whatever he does, whether it's a Blue Beetle 2 or some other films too, I know that I'm going to be super interested in that.
Yeah, nah, same. Yeah, let us know what y'all thought of Blue Beetle down in the comments down below. It was a good movie if y'all went out to see it, and if y'all didn't go out to see it, why not? You know, are y'all gonna watch it on HBO Max? Are y'all gonna keep it on, you know, I don't know, DC Universe or something? I don't know what's going on, but yeah, and you know, let us know if you were interested in seeing the Blue Beetle too. So you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram at Director RB3, and you can follow us here at First Cut TMO. Sabrina, where can people follow you? You
can follow me on Twitter at Sabrina on Film, also TikTok and Threads, I believe is that as well, and then Sabrina X Monica on Instagram.
Nice. And yeah, make sure y'all just, if y'all aren't subscribed to the channel, subscribe, throw us a like, throw us a comment. Always appreciate it. For First Cut, I'm RB3.
I'm Sabrina.
And we're peacing out. Peace.
Remain. It's either me or you. Take you out the equation. It's either me